Zambia just re-elected its president with over 60% of the vote. But a former government minister is dead, the opposition leader is in hiding, and the United Nations is now involved. This is what actually happened, and what's still unresolved. On August 13th, Zambians voted in a high-stakes election between incumbent President Hakainde Hichilema and opposition challenger Brian Mundubile. Hichilema was fighting for a second term on the back of an economic turnaround. He restructured Zambia's debt after a pandemic-era default, brought inflation down, and strengthened the currency. But over 70% of Zambians live on less than $3 a day, and for most people, that recovery hasn't translated into relief from the cost of living. Mundubile, a first-time presidential candidate representing a reunited opposition alliance, campaigned hard on that gap and drew surprisingly large crowds heading into Election Day. When the count finished, the Electoral Commission of Zambia declared Hichilema the winner with about 60.5% of the vote to Mundubile's 37.9%. A clear win, no runoff needed. That part is settled. What happened around the count is not. Here's where the story gets serious. The night after the election, while vote counting was actually paused due to reported attacks on election staff, a security operation happened at Mundubile's home in Lusaka. The government's account: officials say police, acting on a tip, raided the property believing it was linked to militia activity, and say they seized military-grade weapons and had been surveilling people at the property for a security threat. Mundubile's account: he says heavily armed personnel, which he believes were soldiers, stormed his home firing live ammunition, and he flatly denies any militia connection, calling the raid a fabrication meant to distract from disputes over the vote count. What both sides agree on: during that raid, former Transport Minister Mutotwe Kafwaya was shot and killed, and 11 people were arrested. That's the confirmed fact. Everything about why it happened is still disputed. This hasn't cooled down. If anything, it's escalated. Mundubile went into hiding, reportedly with the help of an international human rights organization. The UN's human rights chief publicly said he was concerned about arbitrary arrests of opposition figures and called on Zambia to respect due process. Just this week, police summoned Mundubile and his running mate for further questioning over an alleged national security threat. And Mundubile is now taking the election result to Zambia's constitutional court. He has a legal window to formally challenge the outcome, and that court has to rule within 2 weeks of any petition. Zambia isn't just any country here. It's Africa's second-largest copper producer, sitting on reserves of cobalt, lithium, and other minerals the entire world needs for EVs and clean energy. It's also long been seen as one of Africa's most stable democracies, with every leadership change since 1991 happening peacefully at the ballot box. International observers, including the EU and the regional SADC mission, said Election Day itself was largely calm, but they've raised real concerns about shrinking political freedoms in the broader process. So this isn't only a domestic political dispute. It's a test of whether one of the continent's steadiest democracies can hold that reputation together. None of this is resolved yet. The court challenge is just starting, the raid is still under dispute, and we don't have independent verification of either side's claims. I'll keep following this as it develops. Subscribe so you don't miss the next update, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe the government's account or Mundubile's?